All right, we're live. Welcome to Social Environment. I don't know how many people are going to join us given the changes. Oh, hey, Adrian. I'm glad you're here. Thank you. I'm glad I'm not talking to myself. Who else is here? There's 2 people. I look forward to working with you today. Hope that you'll be interested in interacting with me some. This whole, hey Raymond, good seeing you, good seeing you. You know, this whole coronavirus is just throwing everything off, and I hope that if you're, hey Lauren, if you're taking classes live, that everything is going smoothly. Ava, hi. Jessica, Alejandro, Melissa, hello everybody. Oh my gosh, we have 10 people here. That makes me really happy. Amanda Goldenberg, thank you. I just hope that everyone's doing well as you go back into the live classroom. Hey Darlene, good seeing you again. Yeah, me too, Adrian. I can't go to campus. I'm going to be in town next week. I may run up to my office for 10 or 20 minutes just to pick up some stuff that I need. But other than that, I don't need to be on campus. Anyone who has anyone been to campus yet for classes? What was it like? Oh, Rainbow. Good morning. What was campus like? Did anyone go to classes yesterday or this morning? Because I'm trying not to interfere with your access to your live classes, which is the reason why I went ahead and said live stream is not going to be mandatory, because I know that the library is closed and your access to computers is not good. Great question, Ava. I'm doing much better. I had some really rough days last week. My blood pressure was up around 180, 190, over 110, and so I just, I had to sit down. I had to take it easy because I wasn't good. So, and this is no offense to anyone else. It's just the overwhelming inundation of questions was just, it was just amazing. And most of the questions were answered in the syllabus or answered in announcements or in one of these type of videos. And I just got to a point where I just couldn't answer them anymore. And on Sunday, I fired off that pretty extensive email just so everybody knew where things were. But hey, Manuela, but I just want to make sure that, in this case, I'm not going to interfere with your live classes. Let's see, somebody said something. Yours got canceled, so we stayed remote today. See, I understand what I've heard is things are all over the place, right? They're still trying to, hi Manuela, they're still trying to decide which classrooms you're in, and hey Janine, all that kind of stuff. Where are the classrooms? Who's going to be live? Who's going to be remote at the same time? It just, I don't know, it just seemed nightmarish. So I said, well, let me go ahead and do these. Janine, I'm doing really well. I've had quite a bit of stress here the last couple weeks, but I've been trying to relax and just kind of lay low. I guess I'm one of these people that kind of relaxes by writing, because last week I published, my 6th book, and it was hey Jennifer, oh Jamie, oh okay, I got that. I published my 6th book last week, and which you're all welcome to get, by the way. It's called Hope Works. But I started writing the sequel, which is Success at the Speed of Hope, and I'm already written, I think as of this morning, I think it's around 75 pages of the last one in 10 days. So thank you, Adrian. I appreciate that. So I think that's pretty good production to write, one book in 41 days, and I'm imagining that this one could be done between 30 and 45 days, which is pretty good. But I think it'll help, because it's not just about hope, it's about how do you use it to move forward. How to use hope to actually construct your dreams. And I don't know about you all, but I know many of us, at times, hey Nicole, yeah, I'm doing good. Yeah, thanks. I'm kind of a machine. It's that little video on how to write a great paper. I use it in my own writing, and it's just, it flows out of me. It just falls out literally. And I've been, even though my blood pressure was up last week, I'm much more relaxed than I've been in over 30 years. And, I haven't had this kind of drive and ambition. And, I do my little conversations with God every, hey Grace, Hey, just a side note. Let me come back to that. Every morning, and the sun is coming up over the mountain range, and I have this great conversation. And what's happening is I'm having these epiphanies and these revelations while I'm walking. And then all of a sudden, I said, "Man, there's a chapter there. There's a chapter there." And so my walking is actually writing all the chapters. So it's been kind of nice. Grace, let me just ask a quick question. Grace was actually at my investment seminar yesterday. And by the way, you're all welcome to go to the investment seminars. It's not taped, so you have to go live. But every Monday and Thursday at 7:30. Hey, Rebecca. Hey, Rebecca, that's my homegirl. She's from the neighborhood for real. Her uncles were actually our godfathers. They're the ones that looked up, and they embraced us little kids, and they protected us from some of the negative stuff that happened in our neighborhood. And Rebecca here is their niece. We haven't actually formally met, but we've talked numerous times on the phone. And her sister Sophia, she's up there. I think she's back in New York. But anyhow, it's good to have homegirl. See what I'm saying? It's nice to have a homegirl on here, and it's open to the public. So I'm always glad to see anybody show up. But in any case, I want you all to know that you're more than welcome to show up to the investment seminars. Manny, hello, man. We have 18 people here. This is really a surprise. It's a pleasant surprise. Because as I take a look at Jessica, man, I'm just feeling a whole lot rejuvenated right now. As we take a look into the future, your ability to invest in yourself. I came up with a word last week. I don't know if you've ever heard of the term return on investment, which is where corporations, when they invest in their technology, when they invest in assets, when they buy properties and stuff like that, what they want to do is they want to see how much return do they get for what they invest into the company. And any kind of positive number, whether it's, let's just say it's 10%, ROI of 10% actually is really good. And that means that the company's sustainable and it's going to do really well for the long term. Well, I was walking last week doing my little, conversation, and I came up with this idea of return on me. In other words, how much do we invest in ourselves? If we start to take a look at ourselves as a complete person, right? That is mind, body, spirit, soul, quality of life, satisfaction in life, life satisfaction. We take a look at all these different measures. The question becomes, how much do we really invest in ourselves? Okay, and the more we invest, we can actually measure whether or not it has an impact. And what I did was since publicly traded companies, since they have to report every 90 days, every quarter, their results, I said, you know what, let me just go ahead and set up a program here where every 90 days you report your results to yourself, or if you create a team of people who want to do this together, you do it. Because you can actually measure, if you go on a scale of 1 to 10, how good is your mind right now on a scale of 1 to 10? How good is your spirit? How good is your financial life on a scale of 1 to 10? How good is your body, right, mind, body? How good is your satisfaction of life? How is your quality of life on a scale of 1 to 10? And then you can take a look at all those, put them in a circle, kind of like the spokes of a wheel. And you might be 3 in your body, and you might be 6 in mind, and you might be 2 in finances, and you might be, your quality of life is a 4 or 5. Well, 90 days later, if you invest in yourself, you can actually see whether or not there's been any changes. And if you do that another quarter, a year from then, you should be in great shape, right? You should actually be able to take your dream and transpose it by investing in yourself. For example, how many of us read 20 minutes a day, just a minimum of 20 minutes a day? How many of us exercise 20 to 30 minutes a day? How many of us, like I have to do a Mediterranean keto diet to keep my weight down so the blood pressure stays well? How many of us are actually focused in on what we ingest into our body, right? Because all these things are really investments, and the cumulative effect over time is really what we're interested in. So if our finances aren't good, are we really, all right, Melissa, that's what I'm talking about. If we're putting aside, say, $25 a month or $50 a month in investments, are we building our financial life? Or are you spending more than you earn? Are you actually debtor instead of a saver? Well, all these things will add up ultimately to define your quality of life, because we know that quality of life and life satisfaction, there's 2 things that are really predictive of how satisfied we are. 1 is our financial stability, and 2 is the nature of the relationship. So when you get married, the number one predictor of quality of life is marriage, and the number two is job satisfaction. Number three is financial well-being. So what we do is I'm really on a mission, you guys. I love teaching. I love my classes. I do. But I'm really on a mission so that your generation of people will have information that you can't get in a book. You can get it, but you have to know where to look for it. You're not getting this in class. You know, you live in a transactional world in which everything you do is a transaction. I give you work and you give me money. I take the money and I pay for a product and you give me the product, right? I go to the to the financial aid office. They give me money. I pay for my classes. You sit in a chair, and then from the chair we give you a syllabus. Then you give us the assignments, and we give you a letter, and then we give you pass or fail. Then you get 3 credit hours, and you get enough of those, you graduate. We give you a degree, and you walk out and you exchange the degree for a job, right? That's transactional. It's normal. It's what we do, but it's not very transformative. You see, what it does is the transactional world does something that's really important, and that is it makes you a follower of somebody else's dictates. It makes you a follower of rules that you never created. It makes you a follower of someone else's decision making for you. And that's okay because that's how the system has been designed to work. But as artificial intelligence takes over, as robotics starts to take over, as your need for privacy gives way to your need for safety, what happens is that we've reconstructed the way in which this world looks such that you're going to become more dependent upon other people for your own well-being. And that, hey, what's up, Melanie? How are you? And so, what does that mean? For example, this morning I was on YouTube piddling around, and I saw universal basic income as a method of addressing what's going on with the unemployment rate. How are we going to have artificial intelligence working? How are we going to have, the robotics working and replacing human beings if those human beings can't find suitable employment to replace it? Well, one of the arguments is that what we should do to foster creativity so that people can be more entrepreneurial is we use universal basic income, which means every person gets a base salary from the government of $1,000, which is what the one presidential candidate was talking about during the early debates for this go-around, right? Well, given the nature of economics right now, universal basic income is becoming something that may replace what we already have in place, right? So here's what I think. On the one hand, we live in a transactional. Yes, I mean exactly. I don't know if Bernie talked about universal income, but he did talk about extensively about the inequality, the raging inequality in our nation, where a lot more income is flowing up to the top 1%, and a lot less is flowing into the middle class. The middle class is getting decimated. And what I want you to hold on to, Ava, this is for this class, we're going to talk about it later, is what is called conflict theory. All right? And basically, conflict theory just makes the argument that societies are divided between the haves and the have-nots. Right? The institutions of society, let's see if we can get that in there. The institutions of society, the economic institution, the political institution, family education institutions, media, criminal justice, religious institutions are designed to favor the wealthy over the working class. And by the way, the wealthy is the top 1%. Those who own and control production are the one, and resource or information are the ones who control the system in general. So the rest of us work for them. All right. So the way these work, they will shape for us the opportunity structure. From those opportunities emerge the nature of the social networks that we belong to. Within social networks are the small groups, and there you are down there in interaction, right? So essentially, the conflict theorists are saying that our interaction is based upon the idea that we are Sorry about that, y'all. These things happen. We're going live. I don't have any technological ability. Yeah, it froze for a second. This should be back. Hey, Manny, what's happening? But in any case, if we want to take a look at why things are happening, all we have to do is take a look at the nature of division in our society. Hey, Kyle, Melanie, gosh, look at you all. It should be back at this point. So when we take a look, example, for the protests are a reflection of social class inequality, right? or at least racial inequality. But in either case, those who have power and control are the ones who can force upon those who do not social control. See? So even though that's not exactly what I'm talking about, yeah, we're back. Even though that's not exactly what we're talking about right now with the protests, one thing that we are looking at specifically is the idea of inequality, right? Now, for me personally, the reason why I'm doing the investment seminars is because I'm trying to get you all on an even playing field. I want it to be leveled off so that you can have some control over your future, over your life. As long as those who are wealthy have access to the information and you do not, you will, by definition, continue to fall behind the wealthy, right? And ultimately, what that does is it forces you to be dependent upon somebody else who's making decisions. I'm a conflict. I'm all of the theories. But what we see, whether it's at the local level, right, at the local institutional level, or at the international level, in either case, you have the same inequalities. The monies rise from the third world through the second world to the first world, right? The first world being your industrialized capitalist societies, and the third world being those that are dependent upon other resources or what have you. Reconnecting. Yeah, it froze again. But we're back on. So it looks like we might have some of that. I'll try to pay attention to it. It's having an impact. However, I will be able to, I'll put the tape on in your classroom. I'm sorry about that. I don't know what's going on. I haven't had this problem. A little bit this morning, but not so much. Hey, Nicole, I didn't even see you pop in there. Lauren, hello. Kyle. All right. So anyhow, when we take a look at those institutions, right, the ones that I just showed you, which is also in that Who Am I video. That Who Am I video, you have to watch it again, okay, because most people aren't watching it. It's in one of the first few announcements. But that really explains how the institutions work. You know what, Manny? I don't even know what Twitch is, man. It took me forever how to figure out how to do this. Plus, I'm trying to get to 4,000 hours. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to do some things that the young people do, and I don't know what Twitch is. But I'll tell you what. I'll look into it afterwards. Maybe that would be a better idea. But in any case, look, I'm an old dude. You see these grays and the sideburns. It takes a minute for me to figure stuff out. If it wasn't for my daughters, I wouldn't even know how to do this because I didn't know what OCB was. OCB? I have to have OCB to live stream. I said, what is that? But I'm trying to learn because, see, here's the thing, right? If you're a transformative learner, you learn how to identify what's taking place in the institutions. You learn to read the trends, right? Because trend analysis is how, if you can read the trends in the direction that you're going in, then you can take your skills and you can put them in there. Be an ongoing learner. You have to be a lifelong learner. And so I realized that if I didn't get cool with technology, I was going to get left behind, right? So essentially, I started using, for a second, while I try to figure out what's happening with this technology. I think there's a data usage issue. That's really what's going on. I don't know if it's necessarily a Wi-Fi issue because typically this particular location where I'm working tends to do pretty well. But I'm just going to keep rolling through because I don't know when you can hear me and when you can't. All right. So conflict theory. Oh, by the way, let me explain to you the value of theory. Here we go. It's Pete and repeat. Pete and repeat. All right. Here's the 3 reasons why we use theory. All right. Because a theory is a set of interrelated propositions designed to explain human behavior. Okay. So theory has 3 purposes. 1, it helps us understand phenomenon. 2, it helps us explain. 3, I know. No, it's still here. Just when I say, hey, we're done for the day, that's when you know that we're done. So just hang in there. There's something glitching or whatever, what have you. And the 3rd reason why we have it is we understand phenomenon, it helps us explain it, and it allows us to predict what the future is going to look like. So those are the 3 reasons. Oh, that's all right, Cesar. That's okay. What is refresh? Me refresh? Shoot. Who's king? Oh, okay, you all are refreshing. Well, anyhow, you're hanging in there. There's 5 people. Let me see what happens. Okay, they're coming back in. Really sorry about the technical difficulties, but we'll just keep on. We'll just keep on moving through. All right, I'm gonna put the tape up anyhow. So if we're going to use theory, the reason we use a theory, a set of interrelated propositions designed to explain human behavior. Hey, Natalie, it helps us understand phenomenon. It helps us to explain phenomenon, but most importantly, it helps us predict what the future looks like. So the reason why I do these investment seminars, open to the public, by the way, you can come, your family can come, your friends can come, the neighbor down the street, your cousins, the more the merrier. Because I have a mission at this point in my life that I really want you to have access to your own independence. I want you to be able to stand up on your own and have the life that you dream of. I don't want you to be a follower. I want you to be able to take control of it. And oh, I've never been called a king, but hey, thank you. Thanks for the translation. I appreciate that, Nicole. But in any case, so we take a look at the idea of theory. Now, next week, what you're going to notice in these videos, everyone has to watch them. You don't have to be here for the live stream, but you do have to watch them. And what I'm going to do is embed some discussion about our assignments, right? So I'm going to give you some theories that I want you to look up over the next week. Conflict theory. Oh, man. Conflict theory with Marx, Karl Marx. All right. Then you have functionalism with Durkheim, Emile Durkheim. All right. Then you have symbolic interactionism with, that would be Herbert Blumer or Mead, G.H. Mead. All right. And then, under the functionalist perspective, you want to look up modernization theory, modernization theory. Look at that, cap locks. Modernization theory. All right. Then you want to look up dependency theory, which is actually a part of the conflict theory, but it's at a global level, dependency theory. And then the last one is world systems theory. If you ever read the book, The World is Flat, that's a world systems perspective. And that is, the world is flat means basically because of the distribution of the internet, because of the distribution of technology around the world, it evens the playing field so that everybody can have access to information wherever you are in the world. Now we know that, and I forget the countervailing force, is that not everybody around the world has equal access to information. If you live in Africa, less than 1% have the internet. So if you don't have access to the internet as a nation or as a society or as a community or as a family or as an individual, the odds of you being able to keep up with the change, the rapidity of change in society or in the globe is very difficult, right? So what happens is the wealthy countries move further and further apart from the countries that are poor, and consequently the life conditions of those who are poor ends up being even worse. Now, essentially for next week, somebody called me yesterday. Oh my God, you guys, before my head blows up. WhatsApp is a good application, okay? It's good. But please do not get into a conversation about what's expected in this class based upon WhatsApp, because your level of confusion is pretty clear, all right? Don't worry, I'm going to talk about all this. Janine. And everybody else. I'm going to explain all this. Just let me go through. So, what was I saying? Don't use WhatsApp to find out what's going on in the class, because I was getting the same question over and over again. My blood pressure went like this, and I was at a point. It was either Tuesday or Wednesday where I was pretty clear that I was about to have another stroke and had to go to the hospital. And I'm just not going to answer questions that you can find in the syllabus. All right, I'm not. I just won't do it. And I'm also not going to answer questions that I just put into the announcement board or in a video. So if your questions can be answered there, I'm not going to respond. But if you have questions like this one, do we have to talk about the theories for the answers of the book, right? Okay, for the book. Now that's the kind of question, yeah, text me on that, right? Here's how this assignment works. I want you to choose an autobiography or a biography of somebody, right? I want you to read it, the biography or the autobiography, and it's about a criminal offender. I don't care if it's about, you know, a magistrate. I don't care if it's someone who went at her to me. What you choose. Choose something that you're interested in, someone's story that you're interested in, and read the book. But what you're going to do is you're taking the theories and the concepts from that video, Who Am I, right? The institutions, and you're going to be using theory to explain the patterns of outcomes in the book. Okay? Please do not, absolutely do not. Go watch the video on how to write a great paper too, because I do not want you describing the book for me. Don't describe the book, because I can read the book on my own. If you give me the title, I can go read it. I don't want that. What I want is for you to, okay, Adrian, I'll go back to it. Oh my God, this is going to drive me crazy. I can see this. Okay, hold on, Adrian. Let me go ahead and go back to it. What you're going to do is you are going to choose a biography or an autobiography, right? And you're going to take the concepts from here, which you can find in the video, Who Am I? And you're going to use the theories that I listed here, and you're going to frame and explain. Yeah, I know. You're going to frame and explain patterns of behavior in the book, right? Some outcomes in the book, right? So, for example, someone asked if they can use my book. I prefer you don't for this assignment because, you know, there's another assignment based upon Dear Mama that's coming later. But let's say you were using my book. You could easily talk about economic inequality and the impact it has on self-esteem, because my personal condition was that my mother had grown up poor, and because she had grown up poor, she had all kinds of stress related to her ability to be a mother. She was angry, she was alienated. Now I'm using conflict theory, right? She was angry, she was alienated, and when people are alienated, they feel this incredible surge of anger and hatred. And so when I was born, my mother, who grew up alienated, okay, she took it out on me. I mean, there's just no other way about it. My mom initially didn't want me for the first few years of my life, and I was raised by Bertha Green. Now, Bertha Green was born and raised on a plantation in Arkansas. So her whole entire life experience was based upon racial inequality. As a matter of fact, in the year 1919, she, the largest mass murder in American history took place, where over 350 people from Arkansas were hung by white landowners because they wanted to form a union so that they couldn't be exploited as sharecroppers picking cotton and chopping down trees. They wanted to have rights, and as soon as they tried to establish rights, they were publicly executed by those who had power. And so she witnessed that, and when she witnessed that, what it did is it forced a lot of persons to be quiet and to just passively accept their unequal position in the life. So again, that's conflict theory, correct? Conflict theory says that those who have wealth can control those who do not. And basically what we find is that when we have punishments in society, the punishments, more people who are poor or middle or working class get punished than those who are wealthy. And when they do get punished, their sentences are much longer than those who are of wealthy. So when you think of the news and you think of crime, you almost always think of murder because of the fact that it's always in front of your face on the news, right? Lethal violence is what's always on the news, gun-related violence, etc. But we never talk about white-collar crime. White-collar crime has a much worse impact on you than street crime ever will, right? Because, you know, 10 to 15% of every dime, or 10 to 15% of every piece of money you spend is to make up for what has been lost to corporate crime and employee theft and things of that nature. In other words, white-collar crime costs you 10 to 12%, 10 to 15% of everything you earn to replace what was taken through that system. Street crime pales in comparison. However, you ask the question, who controls the media? Who controls the information? Who's on the school boards? Who's the ones that makes educational determinations for us? Who are these people, right? So, Yes, exactly, Janine. Exactly, right? Yeah, exactly. And the sentence, man, exactly. And the sentences are lighter, right? And you have a different type of experience even in the prison system. So, and then you can afford the attorneys. You all don't really have access to your legal rights. It's very costly. If you don't have Legal Shield, which is also known as prepaid legal, which gives you access to an attorney for $25 a month, you don't have access just because they say you have First Amendment right, just because you have rights from wrongful treatment, civil and criminal, doesn't mean you have access to it because you can't afford it. The criminal justice system, or the criminal justice, civil justice system, really is designed for those who have wealth. Because most of us who are poor or working class, we get run over constantly. The working class, by the way, is what Karl Marx called the proletariats. Right? They're the working class. And we sell our labor into the labor market to the bourgeoisie. We're not going to use a real term. He calls them the capitalists. The capitalists. The capitalists are the ones who own and control information, and they own and control the economic system, the distribution. If you own and control the distribution and you own and control information, you own the world, correct? So why is Bill Gates so wealthy? It's because Microsoft is the access to information. Why is Jeffrey Bezos so wealthy? He's, I guess, the wealthiest man in the world now at over $100 billion. Why? It's simply because he has control over the allocated resources, how goods are supplied and distributed to us. Now, Bill Gates and Jeffrey Bezos and Elon Musk, all these people, Donald Trump, who's a billionaire, they have a whole lot more influence on policy than you and I do. As a matter of fact, they have so much power that they affect the way in which our lives work, right? It's becoming an Amazon world, isn't it? Isn't it becoming a Google world? Who said that Google should have the right to sell your information? We create the search engine, but yet and still they can sell your information. As a matter of fact, they partnered in with the government to make sure that we have the ability to control and know what you're doing, right? Don't do this, but if you did do this, you get in trouble. Go out there and Google search some of the banned books in society. Go out there and Google search a book called The Turner Diaries. If you do, you'll immediately be put onto a watch list. Do you have a First Amendment right to read whatever you want, or don't you? Well, go try to get the Turner Diaries, or go get the, what is it called, Animal Farm, or the Communist Manifesto, or Slaughterhouse-Five. Go ahead and try to get some of these books that are banned. Do a Google search and you'll find that the FBI will immediately have you under investigation. Why? Because you're regarded then as a threat to society, right? Well, who said? Who said? It's those who have power to define you as a threat, right? And who are they? They're disproportionately the ones who have wealth. They're disproportionately the ones who control the media, right? Why is it we have so much coverage of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor? Very newsworthy cases, no doubt, right? But why is it that is our everything is centered on those two cases? What does it do? It distorts our attention towards what does excessive force look like, right? Because what's not true? Hey, Ava, what's not true? Let me see. Oh, okay. Let me come back. I didn't see that, Amanda. Okay, here we go. Amanda, I firmly believe that that's absolutely true. Okay, I do believe that anybody can become wealthy. As a matter of fact, it's the whole premise of the American dream. Absolutely right. And you do have to have a work ethic, right? You have to have dedication. You have to have your vision. And my whole company, Hope Works, is dedicated to the idea that anybody can overcome their current situation. All right. However, your social location here, unevenly distributes your opportunities to obtain that. Okay. Most people, okay, we all have the opportunity to go to college, but the odds of you becoming the President of the United States is going to be much higher if you went to an Ivy League school than if you went to a community college. Doesn't mean it's not possible. It's certainly possible, right? But the difference is based upon social location. So yes, I definitely agree that you can do it. But remember, if we go back to mindset, okay, let's talk about that for a second. Actually, that's a terrific example. If we go to mindset, all right, which is how do we think about moving forward? It is a very difficult process to fight through all the information that is bestowed upon you. Okay. Okay. Ava, I love these comments. This makes me really happy. Okay. But what you have to have is you have to have that mindset of success. You have to have those positive attitudes, those positive internal conversations. Symbolic interactionists say that we are the outcome of all the phenomenon that happened to us. We don't remember them all, but they shape the way in which we see the world. Okay? Then, over time, we learn to see the world through categories. Through rich, poor, famous, paupers, social junk, social dynamite, right? If you're homeless, you're social junk. But if you're a protester, you're social dynamite. Those are categories. Oh, there's a gang member, there's a loser, there's a troublemaker. And we start to demarcate the world based upon all these different types of categories. The issue, and I think this is where you're right, Amanda, is that when people internalize these messages, okay, and this is where the conflict theorists come from. When you internalize these messages that this is all I can ever be, that is a term called false consciousness, okay? False consciousness is this idea that we cannot solidify or find solidarity as a social class or as a race or what have you, that we are stuck in this position forever. And when we accept our position, the impact is that we don't rise up, okay? And that the powerful continue to make the dictates that we have to follow, okay? Once we don't control our work anymore, and we start to, over time, just resign ourselves to the fact that, you know, I got to go sell my labor for less value than what I'm worth, and over time, I can't afford to buy the goods and the materials and the private property that the wealthy can. Over time, it starts to wear you down, right? You work, 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 and you can't get ahead, you can't get ahead, can't get ahead. As soon as we blame ourselves for that, that's when you experience alienation. And alienation is the force that holds down entire groups of people. When you have an alienated force, and therefore, the alienated, it's almost impossible to go from poor to wealthy, because then your thinking becomes one of anger and hatred, because when there is alienation, it's that anger that becomes expressed. And I can tell you for a fact is that my whole entire life crumbled when I became angry back in 1999 after my first marriage. The first marriage destroyed, you know, my sense of self. And so what happened was I became very angry and I started acting out. I had all this money. I just started spending. I said, what's the purpose of me having all this money? And I just went off. I went ham, as they say. Next thing you know, I'm still paying for it. But recently I've got my mindset back and everything's working in my favor. So yeah, I do think you can make it. But a lot of it has to do with it's mindset. If you're a part of a group that's alienated or you become complacent that this is how the world is, then what's going to happen? Then you become a part of that world, right? Which is symbolic interactionism. Conflict theory shapes the context, or the institution shaped the context, then we interpret it based upon our position. Hold on. Let me read some of these comments real quick. Okay, that's right, Amanda. Yes, I agree. You know, and a lot of the reasons why people who come from other nations, think about this. The reason why someone can come from another nation and come here and be successful is because they're not coming here with all the messages that were created, right? They're coming in here with a dream and they are willing to do whatever it takes to make that dream happen. And you see that persons who come from other countries oftentimes do better than the people who are native born here. And the reason is because they haven't been socialized into this cultural system yet. And they come in and they can actually construct for themselves the opportunities, right? How do you do it? How do you do it? One, right? You have to have positive self-talk. You have to say, I can do it, right? Two, you have to be entrepreneurial, right? Because if you can't just come in and do it, you have to have an entrepreneurial mindset. That is, you seek out opportunities, and with those opportunities that you seek out, you find solutions, right? You have to have what I call 2 times P cubed. So let me put that down. 2 times P raised to the 3rd power. What is that? You have to have patience, right? You have to have perseverance. And you have to have persistence. That's 3 sets of P's, right? P, 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 P. But you also, and this is why they were able to do it when they came here from a socialist society, they also had to have purity of purpose, which was to rise up and be financially independent, purity of purpose, and be at peace. 2 times PQ. You have that mindset, you can overcome those obstacles. But when you get beat down repeatedly, over time, the idea that you can succeed and overcome those obstacles really becomes a major challenge. So symbolically, in the head, right, it is a way of interpreting the context. How do we derive meaning? But on the other hand, the structural conditions are real, right? Most people don't, right now in the United States, more people are falling in terms of social class than rising up. So if the American dream is based upon what is called the intergenerational mobility, which is where you end up at a higher social class in your family, that's by definition the American dream, then guess what? A lot of people don't make it. Let me read some much harder for someone who isn't really wealthy to get ahead because of access to, so yeah, exactly, Jessica, that's exactly right. So it's not just a matter, the work ethic has to be there. No one's going to give it to you. But if it's not even playing field, it's that much more difficult. And here's the best example I have. Well, here's the thing about pulling yourself up by the bootstraps. It always makes me nervous. Is that then we blame the individual for their own failure, right? Yes, you have to do the work, but there's also a context. And as long as we continue, hold on, someone's calling. As long as our mind is internally colonized, and we can't, our social location is one of disadvantage, it becomes that much harder. And here's the example. Back in 1988, because I don't follow the Olympics anymore, you can have 2 people with equal everything, okay? And here's the best way to look at it from a conflict perspective. If we both have equal speed, back then it was Carl Lewis against Ben Johnson. They both were blazing fast, okay? And if they put them both on the starting line in the Olympics, which they did, you didn't know who was going to win. Carl Lewis won most of the time, but Ben Johnson ended up winning in the Olympics, although they stripped him of the medal because he used steroids. But in any case, let's say, for example, you put Ben Johnson 30 yards behind Carl Lewis, same speed, same everything, okay? The odds of that person winning are almost impossible, right? Because they're 30 yards behind. So structurally, it's against them to make it. Could Carl Lewis trip? Sure. Could there be some kind of something that happens that Ben Johnson makes it? I don't know. It's possible. However, when we take a look at it, that structural start, like for example, I'm a pretty good educator, and I have the same philosophy as Michelle. Class differences do exist, and they will in capitalism, because capitalism is based upon the idea of survival of the fittest, right? Which is born out of social Darwinism, which is actually blaming persons for their own failure, which I have. It's called a person blame system, which is also called a fair play system. A fair play system essentially says everyone can play the game. Everyone has equal access to it. If they fail, it's their fault. Versus a system blame system, which the system actually is structured so that only a few people can survive. And you got to have people survive. You got to have people rise up, because if you don't have people rise up, right, and prove that hard work and dedication will survive, then the system can't work. So you have to have success, and this is called the fair share perspective, or else the system will in fact crumble underneath itself. Right? So these two perspectives, fair share versus fair play, person blame versus system blame, I'm very, who was I talking to? Ava. I'm very reluctant to use a person blame system. I'm very reluctant to that. The person has to put forth the effort. However, there are real obstacles in people's way. And human-wise, as far as being human beings, people get tired. It's really hard to continue to fight. It happened to me, right? However, I came out here, I got myself back together, and now my fight is ridiculous. I used to have great fight back when I was young, but I was surrounded. Oh, the fourth thing, you got to build a team, right? Not everyone can be wealthy, no. But you know what? Jessica, not everyone can be wealthy, but we're also taught that, wealth is for someone over there. Because, and here's why I mean that. You are not, none of us are taught how to invest our money to grow it. None of us are taught how to create our own business. None of us are taught how to make our business and invest in ourselves. We're not taught that. In what class? Here's what you're taught. You are taught how do you answer a multiple choice exam? How do you follow what other people say to think, and then you have to do it. Hold on, let me read these. Exactly. Not everything's black and white. Gosh, I'm trying to keep up. Well, they do have self-control, Amanda. It's within a context, right? I do think people can become wealthy, and I don't think it's necessary for everyone to be wealthy. But I do think that people should at least have the information and know it's available to them. I do think that everyone should have the opportunity to have control over their own destiny. And you can't have control over your destiny if you're a follower exclusively. If you're a lemming to the news, if you're a lemming to, what the pundits are saying. You have to break through all those messages and say, you know what, and I say this all the time. You have to say, I love you, I like you, and you're worthy of your dreams. But your dream doesn't have to be $100 billion, right? That's not what I'm saying. But I, hold on, I'm a rainbow. That ringtone is All Might from My Hero Academia, right? My girls love it, my daughters love it, I love the show, and my voice is starting to hurt, but I am here. That is that's my imitation of All Might. I am here to save the world. Deku? Well, I use that ringtone to get them to laugh. Okay. Yeah, and Lucy, I agree with that. So I think Amanda is right on target. Is that not everyone has to be first? See, that's part of the capitalist enterprise. First, 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 first. Sometimes fine being second, right? When I was in my graduating high school class, there were 32 people in my class. I was ranked number 19 or 13. There were 19 people above me. I did okay, right? Okay, I'm trying to read these. Okay, I love this because you all are having, without knowing it, you're having a debate based upon theory. Yep. And I can't see who's agreeing with who. But these are theoretical positions of understanding how the world works. For you, let me see. Oh gosh, who is it? Amanda. Okay. You're taking a functionalist perspective. And here's how the functionalist perspective works. The functionalists believe that the institutions work together to promote stability. So, those people who rise up, we want them to rise up because they indicate to us that it can be done. And those persons give us hope, right? So if those persons are there and they give us hope, that is every bit as important, right? Because if we take a Dave Thomas who was an orphan, but he created Wendy's and he became a gazillionaire, right? It shows us that I can do it too. Now, I think the road is really hard, but a functionalist says that when the institutions are working together and it promotes balance and stability in society, then people have the opportunity. They can either be regulated into society, which is where they fit into the economic system, or they can be integrated, which is where their cultural belief system helps them fit into the system. So if you're regulated, you're doing well with the economic system, but if you are integrated, then your belief system, when you're integrated and you're regulated, then good things in life happen. And I don't think you all have to be millionaires, but, well, actually I do. And the thing is that it can be done. You see, someone said that not everybody can do it. No, yeah, you all can do it. And here's how you do it, all right? The way you do it, and this is why I want you all to take my investment seminar, because this is what I teach. If at your age, you put away $250 a month into a diversified portfolio of mutual funds, all right? And you put away that $250 a month from the age of 21 until you're 40, and never put another penny in. When you retire at 65, you're going to have $2 million. Now, the reason why I think it's important to have that investment is because we don't know if Social Security is going to be here. We don't know if pensions are going to be here. But what I do know is that you're most likely going to live that long. And if you're going to live that long, my theory is that you got to be able to take care of yourself. And there's only a couple ways to do it. One, you got to own your own business. Okay. Two, you got to be entrepreneurial and have that mindset because we don't know what the labor force is going to look like moving forward. Amanda, this is what we call structural inequality. When, even though everybody has access to the system, right, we have no control over the fact that industry has disappeared. That is, factories have disappeared, right? Because of deindustrialization, right? That's structural mobility. When the structures change themselves and the jobs no longer exist, you can't work in those jobs. And that has the impact on mobility. For example, right now with coronavirus, you had 40 million people come up unemployed by no fault of their own. The reason was because of structural change, right? So that structural mobility is one of the most important ones. That's the one that can hold us down. Now, with an entrepreneurial mindset, you can come up with a new creative solution. And that's where we're missing it, is while we're here trying to figure out what's in my brain for a multiple choice exam, we forget that what we could be looking at is how do we take our ability and create something for ourselves. Not everyone has the same amount of wealth. The top 1% varies. True. Come on. Yes, I don't know what you're referring to call it that one. Work hard, be successful. That's all. Yeah. But hard work isn't just because you work hard doesn't mean you're going to be a success, though. Right? Because I worked really hard. And I haven't lived the American dream. I have, in the sense I have good income and I moved out of poverty and stuff like that. But I certainly haven't been successful as I would define it. There's more to just working hard. You also have to marry right. You have to surround yourself with people who do not denigrate you, right? So there is still a social process involved, Amanda, in terms of moving upward and having what you want. You know, you marry somebody who has a different philosophy about money than yourself, something amazing can happen, and that is you can get destroyed. Or you're with somebody who has the same philosophy about money, and that's the key, you guys, when you go to get married. You need to share similar philosophies about money. That way, as you work through it, right, you can work together and you can develop whatever comfort level you have. Let's see here. Work hard, be successful. You have to see beyond just the surface all the time, no matter how hard it may be. Yeah, that's true. I mean, you all are bringing back mindset, but even mindset is still within a context, right? It's still within a context. Some of these things are really hard, but they can be done, right? But they can be done, but you can't do them. You can't do them if you don't have the mindset. If you experience alienation, and that is a very powerful thing to experience, or depression, however you want to define it, it is really hard to get yourself stoked up to move forward. That's when you really have to rely upon the people that you surround yourself with.
A phone call is here.
There you go. There it is. Phone call is here. Yeah. All right. I hear that, Amanda. Yeah. Well, Amanda, you're actually hitting on symbolic interaction, right? You're perfectly happy with where you are. That's what life satisfaction is, right? Is the key. I think that's the key to all of life. Are you satisfied with your life? Life satisfaction, quality of life are number 1 and 2 in my book. Question is, are you? And we can always figure that out. We don't all have to be millionaires. The point is that we all have the ability to millionaire. Well, I really think that you should strive to be one, not because of the money itself, but because of the fact that in 40 years, when you head towards retirement, you don't know what's going to exist, and you got to be able to take care of yourself, and that's my opinion, right? And it really is doable. $250 a month at 10% for 40 years, 35 years, you're going to have the $1 million. And that way, the only reason that's important is so you can take care of yourself. That's all. I don't want my kids changing my diapers when I'm old and decrepit. I want to be able to do that on my own, you know what I'm saying? Because it's inevitable. I'm going to have diapers. I already know. I'm planning on it. And okay, and then you have that. But see, the documentation, undocumentation, even that is policy driven, right? I mean, all this stuff ties in. Okay, I love this conversation. What you're witnessing on the discussion board right here, what's amazing is you're looking at how the functionalist perspective, where everything is integrated, and if you just properly align yourself with the institutions, you can move up, as opposed to power differentials in the conflict perspective and how that influences our interpretation, versus the mindset, which is how do we see ourselves, which is symbolic interactionism. So when you're looking at all these different things, right, you're really seeing theory play its way out. And you're going back and forth over theory, which, let me tell you something, right now, I'm really happy. I'm really happy to watch a theoretical discussion. You may not be using the terminologies. However, you are using the stuff that is really theoretical from an economic perspective. Jessica is hitting at from an economic determinist perspective? Well, first of all, here's the fact of the matter, Jessica. You can all be a millionaire. And I just told you how to do it. But we got to remember there's a thing called the bell-shaped curve. There's a median average of what people accept. Then you have the persons on the far right wing, not politically, the 1%, the top 5%, who do everything they can to get there. Then you have people who just don't do anything, right? There is a distribution in grades. There's a distribution in income. And all I'm saying is that you do have the ability, but most people get complacent. They'd rather watch another series on Netflix than they would to build their future. Some people would rather go out. Some people would rather smoke dope. Some would rather do coke. Some would rather go ahead and overeat. Some would rather spend all their money on clothes and on food. And that's fine. That's your choice. But if you're trying to retire wealthy and in control of your own life, your own destiny, then it's going to take different behavior patterns. And we find that most people are over here. Most people are on the side where they're more complacent than they are actively trying to make their life happen. And so even if everyone has access to becoming a millionaire, the mindset has to be there, which is a micro perspective, right? Okay, I don't know who you're responding to. Let's see here. I'm trying to keep up. Yes, Lucy, that's exactly right. One of my best friends, his name is Eric Ree. His sister, Michelle, went to Harvard, and I went to Denison, which was a great school. She was invited to be the Secretary of Education by Trump and Barack Obama, and I teach at Miami-Dade College. We have the same skill set. We have the same mindset. We have the same work ethic. I mean, she didn't outwork me, and I didn't outwork her, but it ended up that she had an avenue into being a Secretary of Education where I did not. So in that sense, the 30-yard behind start. See, just because you start 30 yards behind, and this is where you're right, Amanda, just because I start 30 yards behind, I don't win the race doesn't mean I have to see myself as a failure, because even if I just finish the race, maybe that's a success. Maybe it's not about me finishing the race. Maybe it's just a matter of me trying to feel comfortable with who I am, right? Undocumented people are here illegally. Of course, we have better opportunity to documented people. Yeah. I don't know. I missed some of the discussion. You were saying that we could all be wealthy if we worked hard, which is true, but well, we don't have to throw in a little ignorant, but that's okay. I think it's just what I said, is that there's a distribution of people who are going to give it their all the time, all day, every day. There's others who just sit back and say, whatever. Look in your classrooms. When you go in the classroom, essentially, I only have to have 2 assignments to know who's going to get an A from who isn't. I don't grade hard like I used to, but you can tell, you do it. When you go into these live classes, you'll be able to identify the persons that are prepared. You're going to be able to identify the persons that are on top of their game, who gets their stuff in on time, who's producing on exams and in papers. You can see who they are, and then you can see the people who aren't. It's the same classroom. Everyone has the same opportunity, but the distribution, there's a distribution there, right? 10% if we really did according to, education, where there's a distribution, top 10% get an A, the bottom 10% fail. Most people get a C. That's how it's supposed to work, all right? That's a bell-shaped curve. Well, there is a bell-shaped curve out there. There is, right? It's based upon a lot of things. But I can tell you for a fact that there's a lot of students who will never give an ounce of their best. And there's others, no matter how hard I push them, they're always doing it, pushing. And there is that distribution, right? And then it translates into the real world. My point is that I don't want any of you getting run over by a system that's coming down the road. I want you at least to have access to the information, investment information or what have you. And it doesn't have to be investment in the stock market or in mutual funds. If you're investing in yourself, in your knowledge, in your body, in your spirit, in your mind, right? I think that as long as you have a quality of life, a life satisfaction that suits you, then you've done something, right? The American dream, as it used to be defined, climb up intergenerationally, it's gone, or it may be gone, because people are starting to define success in a different way, which I kind of like, right? Let's see. I can't get into all the undocumented, documented stuff, because that's a little, it's a part of it. As a matter of fact, that would be a great book if you guys can pick up a book that has to do with the experience of a documented person or an undocumented person. That'd be a great thing to work on. Yeah, I wish you all wouldn't, throw out names and stuff like that. Well, I don't think ignorance is the right word, but I do think that it's a lot more. I mean, there's definitely a social context in which people operate, right? In my neighborhood, it was really hard for me to go to a private school, even though I had access to information. It was really hard because if I had a book, people called me spoiled. People beat me up because I played the violin. And over time, even if you have special skills, it can, in fact, become a deterrent. It could lead to bullying, and then people disappear. So, I mean, context, social context, really does matter. Now, I do believe that work has to do it. You two, you know what, Amanda and Ava, you guys need to, I want to see you guys go out in an alley somewhere. I want to be there to watch. Just keep it respectful. Because, listen, both sides are right. You're both right. Okay? And that's because of the theoretical position. All I want you to do is figure out how to articulate yourself using the functionalist perspective, conflict, symbolic interactionist. Winning is a matter of, perspective. I just, look, I don't know what I opened up today, but here's what I want, all right? What I want is for you to all of you, every single one of you, is to be in control of your life and not to be controlled. And all I'm saying is I'd like for you to be a thinker. You all are thinking here. This is what I'm talking about. You're thinking, right? My mom used to say, it's okay to be wrong, but make sure you think, okay? Okay, so you're thinking. This is the kind of discussion that is necessary. It's a dialogue that is very important. The system is broken. Individuals are broken, right? It's a theoretical position. Well, Amanda, I do come from a system blame perspective. I really do. And the reason is pretty simple. It's because your social location relative to the institutions does have a really direct impact on what your life outcomes are going to be. However, within those systems, I do think that with some effort and with a lot of things that you're not taught to do, with a lot of effort in terms of who am I? Remember those assignments, there was a reason. Who am I? What does my life look like in 2040, right? A letter to yourself. What those really are about your mindset. I'm trying to have an impact on letting you know that you can achieve whatever it is. Now, I'm not a big proponent of mediocrity because I think that all of you have greatness within inside of you. Yeah, and that's true too, Ava. Right? These are all structural considerations, and I totally agree. Where's Janine? You see, okay, Janine, I'm kind of with you on that one, right? The institutions create the context, but the way in which we construct the world in which we live has the impact on how we survive. Because when you have powerful or strong self-esteem and strong confidence, you can work hard, right? And you have people supporting you and cheering for you, which I did. I mean, I had street gang members who were always supportive of me, who were saying, you're going to be something someday, and they protected me from the other gangs from around the block over at Weiler Homes, and that protection allowed me to have the confidence that I could continue moving forward, right? I know, we're just having a conversation. Okay, good, no hurt feelings. This is good. Me too. I like these kind of things. But if you notice what you really have, it is a theoretical conversation, right? I love the fact that we have some conflict theory going on here with the fair share or fair play, fair share, fair play, whatever. And then we have the functionalist perspective, and then we have the symbolic interactionist perspective. But what you're also saying, Janine, is that you can combine these perspectives, right? When I've designed crime reduction strategies for Columbus, Ohio, for Louisville, Kentucky, and Miami, you have to take, God, where is it? Okay. So we look at this again, right? Okay. Yes, Nicole, that's what I'm talking about. If this society is macro, and the phenomenology, that is phenomenon shape us, and this is micro, where is it? If this is micro perspective, and this is macro perspective, we can make the argument that both exist simultaneously. If we do that, this is what you call structuration, right? Macro forces always shape the context in which we interact, and because institutions are greater than us. But we always are being socialized into a small group environment at all times, right? So every moment of every day of our entire life is a process of macro forces shaping the context in which we interact in, but micro forces like identity and concept of self actually shapes the way in which we interpret the context, and therefore we can behave or choose from what are called, and this is for you, Amanda, alternative lines of conversation. We have alternative conversations and different choices that we can make in any given one, but the one we're going to choose is the one that most fits our mindset, our personality, right? So the society creates the context, but our interpretation of the context influences the behavior that we choose. So they happen, as Janine says, I think, both at the same time. If they happen at the same time, it's called a structurated model. And most people have a really difficult time of thinking about it all as structurated. Well, I'm not even sure, yeah, Amanda, that may be true, but I'm not even sure we really have a pure capitalist system. As a matter of fact, I would say that we don't. I would actually say that if we had a pure capitalistic system, in 2008, companies like General Motors and all them, they shouldn't have been bailed out, right? If you have a capitalist system, capitalism basically assumes that the strongest will survive. And with the nature of competition, if you can't, look, how did GM and all them go bankrupt when they have access to the best lawyers, the best accountants, the best CEOs, the best CFOs that can be hired anywhere in the world? How did they go bankrupt, right? It's because something fell apart. It wasn't working properly. So if the system was broken, it should have been allowed to disappear. But there'd have been some great harm, right? There'd have been huge unemployment if we let all those companies go under. But the fact of the matter is, a purely capitalist system, they would have went under. You know, and the fact of the matter is that our laws do favor the wealthy, in particular with the legal system, with the way in which wealth is transferred and stuff like that. However, you know, we have a capitalist system, but we have a lot of other things blended into the capitalist system. It's not purely capitalist. Just like communist China is not purely communistic, is it? Right? They're the most capitalistic country on the planet, but they run their capitalism through a communist model. So, I mean, these things can be blurred and distinguished, blaming the system, paying attention to how the system. Down. Man, I'm enjoying this. Yeah, well, you can't turn a blind eye. Okay, Janine, I really want you to focus in on structuration. I want you to use that word. It is half system, half people. Say it's a structurated model, and then you have something that I really think you can fall back on. Who's Queen Energy? Where'd that come from? Yep, okay. You know, Lucy, I think that's true, but I still think you have to surround yourself with people who support you, right? Because it's a really hard climb as an individual, but if you support yourself with masterminds, see, Bob Proctor, and I think he's right, we are the average of the 5 people we associate with the most. So if you're not associating with people who lift you up, right, it's going to be really hard to have that initiative. When you're constantly denigrated and insulted by your significant other, over time, over 5-10 years, that stuff starts to wear down on your self-esteem and your self-confidence such that it might, in fact, destroy the initiative over time. I mean, that's what childhood trauma does. That's what domestic violence does. That's what dating relationship violence does. Over time, it starts to attack initiative and ambition and all those kind of things, which is contextual, right? But the distribution is structural, right? All right, here we go. America was... Okay. Well, there you go, Amanda. Amanda, you're definitely a social Darwinist, which is fine. I mean, that's what it is. So you look that up for yourself, social Darwinism. Every man for himself. I still think we need to surround ourselves with a team. Interesting. Man, this is very interesting. I didn't expect all this. Is anyone even listening to anything I'm saying? Or is it just all a discussion board? Oh, God. Oh, that's an interesting question, Amanda, about the GPA. That's an interesting one. Where'd you come from, Brenda? I didn't even see you in here the whole time. Uh-oh, Amanda, you're not what? Yes, okay, Lucy, I agree with that. All right, woo, man, you guys blew me up today. This class, yeah, that makes me feel kind of nice. You know, this discussion about sharing the GPA. Here's how I manage this. I have a completely different orientation on all this stuff, and that is, I think you're all great, and my job is to help you find that greatness. When I was in high school and college, I had a natural propensity to help other people study because I didn't know I was going to be a teacher later, but I didn't care about what grade I got. What I cared about was that I did the best I could do, which was always. I always did my best. And it wasn't very good sometimes, but I did my best. But I was always willing to help somebody else out. And I think that that's part of it. I don't even know what class you're in, Brenda. Yeah, well, Amanda, people who work full time and study full time, then you throw in those who are parents full time, those are the people I have the deepest respect for. I respect everybody because I think we all have greatness in there. But when I was in college, I did the same thing. I worked full time. I had 4 jobs simultaneously. I had to study full time, and I had it was really tough financially. But I guess I'm the example of what you're saying. Is I paid my way through college, even though I had to pay based upon my stepfather's income. Well, you know, as a humanist, I do think we have to care about other people, right? Because here's the thing. We don't know what's inside them, and I feel like everybody has greatness in them. And if they have greatness in them, but they're fallen, and you have the ability based upon your experience to help them up, I think you should. Because by changing the trajectory of their life, you change the whole notion of history. And it's possible, because I've seen this happen, that the very person that you help may end up being the person that helps your children out in the future. Right? So just by walking and not caring, I think care has been eliminated from the system a little bit too much. I do think that's an important one. Oh, brother. Empathy is a good thing. Well, let's see. We have about 6 people here. The other 11 are watching, which I think is fascinating. But in any case, here's all I'm saying. All right, here's all I'm saying. Functionalism, conflict theory, and symbolic interaction. Correct. They're all subject to criticism. Okay. Here's all I want. Here's all I want from all of you. Is I want you to own your thoughts, build your arguments, support it with data. You can't be wrong because there is no wrong and there is no right. Right? I think it's socially constructed. So therefore, your ability to think for yourself and to take yourself and put you into the picture. That's the key. Put you into the picture. You put yourself in the picture, now you got a fighting chance. And I think this is what Amanda's saying. There's a lot of stuff that you got to do. And you all can do it. That's the whole point. I'm glad you love the class. Jessica, I wish you all wouldn't use the group chat unless you're going to have discussions like this because everyone ends up being confused all the time. All right? I don't want all this confusion. You can be in the group chat all you want, but please, my God, do not ask questions about this class. Refer to the syllabus and the announcements for the answers. If there is something that you need to ask or discuss that's not in the syllabus or in the announcements, then contact me. But don't get caught up in confusing each other and then blowing me up because I'm not going to have a stroke over this. Now, Ava, that's us. If you're doing it as a human being, right? then you're doing it as a human being. Myself. I'll figure out my path. I don't need to do something for you to do something for me. Even though that's exchange theory, right? Exchange theory is basically I scratch your back, you scratch mine. But if you do it with, see, here's what happens in real life. If you do something for someone else with an expectation, you're always going to be disappointed because no one can ever live up to everyone else's expectation. This is why relationships break apart, and this is why, people get disgruntled in the workplace. I do this, I expect that. But when you don't get that, you're disappointed and you get angry. Well, you know what? You can't expect it. Once I told somebody back in when I was at Ohio State, I said, sometimes the only person that's going to compliment you is you. So maybe we need